Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Gift of the Mormon Faith Crisis. It is February 19th, 2019, and I am Dr. John Dehlin. It's very good to be with you today. I'm joined by my brilliant partner, Margi.
Yes, Margi, glad to be here.
And as always, we effusively praise our partner in Wichita, Kansas. She is none other than the one, the only Natasha Helfer Parker, sex therapist, marriage and family therapist, all-around amazing human. Natasha, welcome to The Gift of the Mormon Faith Crisis.
Thank you, John. And I thought we had said that I'm introducing people today. So I would like to introduce the fabulous, wonderful, one and only John Dehlin, who's always introducing Margi and I. And he is amazing and funny. And
welcome,
you know
everybody.
We were
it's a
even
love fest. Welcome to our love fest.
It's a love fest. And I was even telling John and Margi how sexy and wonderful they are today. So there you go.
Sexy.
Wonderful.
We're sexy and we know it.
Woo, 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 woo.
Sexy for your show. Remember that?
I do.
Sexy for my show.
All right. Well, that's good. Well, now that we've gotten off to a rocking start, welcome everybody. We're really excited for today's episode. Today we are going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to many people's hearts. It's something that everybody kind of has to go through at one point or another when they're going through a faith crisis, at least within Mormonism. Maybe not in other religious traditions, but we're going to be talking about what to do and how to come out to family members when you've lost your faith. And it's a sensitive and a difficult topic. And we know that you're going to find value here. We're probably going to go for several hours because this is a complicated and nuanced topic. And we're really excited because we're going to be incorporating the thoughts and the feedback from many of you, our listeners. So we were able to gather narratives of many of you, and we're slotting them into our outline. And so we think that this is going to be really useful. So we're excited. Really quickly, we have a few points of business to announce. Let's start with our mission. Margi, what's our mission?
To provide positive, practical, and personal tips for navigating a Mormon faith crisis, or for those wishing to understand those in a faith crisis.
So this isn't just for people in a faith journey or faith crisis, but it's for their loved ones as well. And so we're trying to keep it appropriate and sensitive and respectful. Good.
Well, in a way, I mean, we're doing what we're modeling, hopefully, what we all should be doing, because I think that a lot of times, as you say that, I'm reminded that especially online communities, we tend to kind of like congregate with similar-minded people, and what we're trying to do here and what we're trying to help people do in the transition of faith is knowing how to reach and build bridges across different ideas and beliefs.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. And the reason why we named the podcast this way,
the gift.
And the website, sometimes this can feel like a huge catastrophe or a burden, and it often feels that way, and sometimes it even can be. With the tens of thousands of people we've collectively counseled with over the years, what we found is that most people find this to be one of the biggest gifts of their lifetime. And so that's why we've named it as we've named it. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook at the Gift of the Mormon Faith Crisis webpage. There are lots of ways you can find us if you're just stumbling onto this randomly. So tune in however you can. This is meant to be a weekly podcast and a website. And the website mentions not only the podcast, but also resources at people's disposal. The first is coaching. Natasha, tell us a bit about the coaching you do.
Yes, I offer both in-office and online coaching and therapy services. So anything that you want to find out professionally about me that we don't necessarily talk about here, you can find on my website, natashaparker.org. So that'll take you to my counseling and events I do and things like that.
And you do marriage and family therapy, you do sex therapy, you do lots of stuff, right?
Yeah, I mainly work in the intersection between sexuality, faith, transitions, but also just run-of-the-mill, depression, anxiety, mental health concerns in general. So, yeah.
Margie, tell us about yours.
Yeah, you can find me at my website, Beauty in the Now. I'm about to get a website revamp.
.org.
.org.
Beautyinthenow.org.
And I'm about to have a website revamp.
You excited about that?
I'm very excited.
Who's helping you with that?
So our daughter Maya is helping me with that. So that's fun. That's coming.
And just tell us what type of coaching you do.
So I primarily do life transition work. So that's kind of relationships, wellness, self-care, grief, identity.
All right. Beautiful.
What do you do, John?
So my website's johndehlin.com. You can go to /private practice if you want. That's where it talks about my coaching. I do a lot of mixed faith couples work. That's my specialty, probably. I also do just personal faith crisis navigation stuff as well. Sometimes I do other personal things, just kind of life coaching, helping people achieve their goals. But it's a small practice, and reach out if you need something. You can email me at drjohndehlin@gmail.com.
Reach out if you need something. Could be anything, just if you need something.
All right. We also, on our website, which is mormonfaithcrisis.com, we also now are listing events that we're holding around the world. We had an amazing workshop in Orem, Utah last Friday and Saturday. 25 people came. It was intimate. It was powerful. Shout out to all my Orem homies. Although it's not really accurate. We had people from Highland and Alpine. We had people from St. George. We had a dude flying from Sacramento to go to the Orem workshop. We had lots of people from Arizona. People come from all over for these things. But the point is, it was amazing and people loved it. And they connected. We have several on our calendar. Some of these you can find at mormonfaithcrisis.com/events. Others we're going to be putting up in the next few weeks, but I'll just rifle through them. Las Vegas is this week. So I'm traveling to Las Vegas, and on the 22nd and the 23rd of February, we'll be doing a workshop in Las Vegas. There's still a few slots open for that. So if you or someone you love need support in your faith crisis, sign up for the Las Vegas event. It's going to be amazing. Natasha, tell us quickly about your Mormon Matters event.
Yeah, so I'm partnering with Dan Witherspoon from Mormon Matters, March 1st through 3rd in the Salt Lake City area. We've done these retreats before and have been really well received. We always get 4.9 out of 5 stars per se in our evaluation forms. These retreats are typically meant for those who are still interested in engaging with Mormonism in some way or another. Maybe it's people who are maybe leaving less orthodox belief, but wanting to still stay nuanced in their Mormonism, or maybe still want to attend due to family relationships, things of that nature. It's a really good fit for mixed faith relationships. We've also had people come with parents and adult children. I've had adults bring their parents to help them understand kind of how they're going through these issues. It's very relationally focused. It's also spiritually focused in the sense of that's kind of the stuff that Dan works on, is how to re-engage your spirituality when going through a faith transition. And I also focus on things like parenting, sexuality. So it's a really robust weekend with a lot of different topics. And if you want more information about that, again, you can go to natashaparker.org or the Mormon Matters website as well, and hit our events page. So that's coming up in a week and a half. We still have some slots available. I'd love to get that filled up. It's super helpful for those who come.
Most importantly, is or is there not karaoke?
There is karaoke, which is highly therapeutic, highly recommended. and lots of fun. So we had, we always have a good time on karaoke night.
I love it. Okay. We plan on doing another workshop in Ogden, March 8th through 9th. Natasha, Margi, and I will be recording a mixed faith marriage webinar so that people who can't come to these retreats but want to just dig into how to navigate successfully a mixed faith marriage can purchase a webinar and appreciate that. We're going to be recording that in early to mid-April. April, right now, the plan is April 2nd, 9th, and 16th to do some live recordings of that. For those who want to join us, we'll be providing with information on how to do that. Julie de Azevedo Hanks and I, she's the daughter of Lex de Azevedo. We are doing a mixed faith marriage retreat in Salt Lake City for mixed faith couples. Julie's going to represent the believing point of view because she's faithful and active and engaged with church. Me, not so much. And together, and Margi's going to come help out there, we're going to support couples who want to dive deep and do a mixed faith marriage retreat. So that's Salt Lake City, April 12th through 13th. Natasha's also hoping to do a workshop in Oklahoma City, April 12th through 13th. So if you want to host that, if you're in Oklahoma City and you want to host that, reach out to Natasha and we'll get information on that up soon. I hope to come to Gilbert, Arizona, May 3rd through 5th. We're going to do something. We are going to do we're really excited to announce a conference. It's going to be, long time ago, there was an ex-Mormon conference called the Ex-Mormon Conference every year. It was canceled recently. And a bunch of us got together and realized what we need to do is have an annual conference for people healing and growing sort of after Orthodox Mormonism. So we're not sure what we're calling it yet, but mark off your calendars, June 7th through 9th. We're going to have an amazing conference in Salt Lake City to provide people with tools and support for finding community and leaving Orthodox Mormonism. We're doing Switzerland in June, Colorado in August, Kansas City. Natasha wants to do something in September. I'm doing Southern California in September. And we hope to have another mixed faith marriage retreat in November. So lots of events coming up. In addition, I am holding free workshops in Salt Lake City once a month where we're going to be going into depth on these topics. We had 80 people at our last event last week. It was amazing. It was healing. Those dates, March 13th, April 10th, May 8th, June 12th, and July 10th, will be coming to Salt Lake City for free if you can't afford any of these workshops. And you can check out mormonfaithcrisis.com/events for more information. We always hold these free events at the Community of Christ building, again in Holiday, Utah. And if you cannot afford one of these workshops or retreats but really want to attend, we do offer scholarships. And so you can apply for one of those scholarships. And then we're also raising money for those of you who have attended these events and want to pay it forward. We are offering a scholarship fund where you can donate to these events, and we'll use those donations to support scholarship applicants. And we'll make sure you find out how your money got used. So that's a lot of announcements, but these events just really make a difference. We don't do them because we're trying to make extra money. We do these events because they change lives, and that's why we do them. So check it out. We also want to thank 4 of our new donors. Sunny, Courtney, Jennifer, and Christine are all new donors. You can go to mormonfaithcrisis.com and click on the donate button. And if you value these programs, $10, $25, $100 a month, whatever you can afford, you can become a recurring donor. We'll mention you on the podcast, and you can know that this stuff will be available not only to you, but to your loved ones and to future generations. We plan on just leaving this content up for free as long as we have enough support to keep it up. So please donate. And your money's going to go to paying for the editing, to paying for the hosting, to paying for just all the time and effort and energy that goes into these podcasts. It's well spent, hopefully, for you. So please check it out. All right. It is time for our What's Working section. We want to also just do a quick shout out to those of us who are joining us live. We have several people joining us live, including Toddy, Jesse, Leandra, and Bryce. Bryce, I got to shout out to Bryce. Bryce donated his home for the Orem workshop. So a special shout out to Bryce. He made this possible. Also, Dana's joining us. We know Dana and Melissa and Laura and several others. So thanks to everyone who's joining us today. Aaron's joining us. Aaron also gives us great tips, and Wendy. Shout out to everyone who's joined us now. If you want to, please spread the word. Post this live stream to any group or family member or on your Facebook page, anywhere. And you can just say, hey guys, if you need tips on how to come out to family members in your faith crisis, they're talking about it right now. We'd love to have as big of a live audience as we can. Michelle, say hi to Michelle as well. And also, those of you who are joining us live, please share your tips and tricks and mistakes and best practices of your coming out. If you've already come out to family and friends, we would love to incorporate those into the show. How's that sound? All right. Natasha, anything you want to add before we jump into today's episode?
No, the only thing would be just if you are in the Oklahoma City area or Kansas City area, that in order to make an event possible, I would need somebody to either, be willing to host in their home, or maybe have some type of office space that's available to them or something like that in order to keep costs down. That's what I need. So if anybody, in order to even start really planning an event, that's probably the first step. So please reach out to us if that's something that you might be able to help me with.
Love it. And that's actually true for everything, in the sense that if you want to bring, I had someone from South Jordan say, I want to do one of these in South Jordan, or someone else said, I want to do one of these in Saratoga Springs. Incidentally, the people you meet at these workshops or retreats are the most important part. You can make lifelong friendships. You can meet other couples that are close to you in your particular area. You can make friends, get mentors, role models, etc., and just feel validated, so you don't feel crazy and you don't feel so alone. So the value of these events is much more than just the content. It's the relationships. And that's why doing them in your local city can be so valuable. So no matter where you are, if you want to hold one of these events, we'd love to have you. So just reach out to us at mormonfaithcrisis@gmail.com. Say, hey, I want to host one of these. I've got lots of friends and family that want to attend, and we'll make it happen. True?
True.
Yes.
Because that's how we roll.
That's how we roll.
Yes.
Crystal joined us. Hey, Crystal. Okay, so let's begin with the topics. But before we do, we have the What's Working section, where we all share something that's working. And listeners, if you're joining us live, if you want to share with us something in your life that's working for you, please do. Margie, what's working for you?
Yes. So I have something that it's working, and then it started not working, and now it's working again, and I'll explain. So I have a basic capsule workout routine that, if you're interested, you can check out on my blog, beautyandthenow.org. But what was happening, the weights portion of my workout started hurting me. So kind of over the years, I've noticed I get these recurrent injuries, headaches, pulled muscles, and I try to do yoga after to kind of stretch out my muscles. It just wasn't working. So what I did was I replaced the kind of weight portion of my capsule workout routine with more of a bar, like kind of weight building.
What do you mean by bar?
Muscle
building. What do you mean by bar?
So like the bar method, it's kind of, the idea is small movements, small muscle groups that get kind of burned out over time. It's a hard workout. My daughter Claire and I just kind of tried one out this past week. So that's something I'm going to be adding, is a replacement, and that kind of comes in the way of honoring my body, not wanting it to hurt, and kind of checking in and realizing something that wasn't working and replacing it with something that actually feels better.
I love it. Natasha, what's working for you?
My thoughts for today are, I'm kind of a mantra queen. I love mantras. I love little sayings. So I love refrigerator magnets that I put on my refrigerator and that have these fun little sayings. And so I'm going to share a few of them with you. This one's from Emerson, and I think this is kind of brilliant. Finish each day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities have crept in. I love the word absurdity. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow's a new day. You shall begin it serenely and with too high a spirit to be encumbered with your old nonsense. Oh, I love that one. Okay, John, you gave me this one. Be truthful, gentle, and fearless. Gandhi, love it. I love blessings. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rains fall softly upon your fields. That's an Irish blessing. And this has got to be my all-time favorite. This one is, I am fairly certain that given a cape and a nice tiara, I could save the world. I think that's accurate.
I agree.
Clearly
I
accurate.
might wear a cape next time. How about that? And a tiara.
Get these women capes and tiaras.
And yeah, crowns.
I'm passing on the tiara, but you guys need tiaras.
You would look good in a tiara.
So I love mantras. Things that uplift me, things that help me feel connected, things that remind me of the things that I want to feel are important in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So fridge magnets are working for Natasha. I love it. All right, you know what's working for me?
What's working for you?
You guys want to hear?
Yes.
Bose noise cancellation headphones.
How are they working for you?
Yeah, so I always have had crappy headphones, and I decided I wanted to buy some nice ones. So I bought some Bose noise cancellation headphones, and they are amazing in so many ways. The best part about it is if I just want silence, they cancel out all the noise around me, whether I'm on an airplane or in my room, in my house, people are running around, and I just want some quiet. But also, like if I'm taking a bath, I've mentioned baths, how much I love baths. I'm addicted to baths. Today, in the history of my life, it's the first time I took a morning bath. I got back from exercising, and I'm like, Margie, I feel like taking a bath, but it's morning. And you know what Margie said? What'd you say?
What did I say?
She said, sweetie, take a bath in the morning. You can do that.
It's pretty cold here, so we were both really, really cold.
She said, exercise your power and take a bath. So I did.
Seize the day. Carpe diem.
Yeah. And oftentimes when I'm in my bath, I put my noise cancellation headphones on, watch a little Netflix, watch a little whatever I want. It's fun. And also when I'm really tired and I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't sleep, sometimes I throw my headphones on and listen to a little meditation or a little audiobook or a podcast, and it helps me get right back to sleep.
Can you take phone calls with
your
headphones?
You can take phone calls.
Is it higher quality? Is it easier to hear?
Yeah.
Any upgrade there?
Yeah, definitely. And it sort of cancels out all the noise, so it helps me focus on the phone call.
Nice.
So check out Bose. Sony's got a pair. Lots of different providers have noise cancellation headphones. They're the ones that cover your entire ears. They don't just sit on top of your ears or go in your ears. They cover your ears completely. And they work for me. So that's what's working for me. Allison agrees. She says totally worth the money. They can be pricey, like $350. Beats also has really good pairs. Anyway.
Feels like we need to say something like you're not getting a kickback from any of these companies.
Yeah, we are not. We are not endorsed in any way.
Up, people.
This is a free
endorsement. Yeah.
Tamara says I need to get some of those too. I'm very sensitive to noise. You do that. You deserve it, Tamara. You deserve it. Go out.
Happy Valentine's Day month to you.
Yes. You need some self-love, Tamara. Dawn is reflecting back on Natasha's share. Dawn's sharing what works for her, and she writes, yes, I have thoughts up on my vision board in my office to remind me of my journey. One example, when I get into a place where I think I cannot hang on a moment longer, I will never give up then, for that is just the place the tide will turn. Okay, so that's her quote. Let me say it again. When I get into a place where I think I cannot hang on a moment longer, I will never give up then, for that is just the place the tide will turn. Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing what works for you, Dawn. And if anyone else wants to share what works for them, we'd love to see it. All right, that's the what's working section. And now it's time for our main event. Today's episode is how to, quote, come out, close quote, as a non-believer to close family and friends. Now, at the outset, both Margi, you and Natasha expressed, one thought about using that term coming out. Natasha, do you want to share what your thought was on the use of that term coming out, whether or not it's appropriate?
Well, I think that coming out is usually a term that we primarily think of the LGBTQ plus community. And that is a very sensitive, difficult process for a group that's been highly marginalized and discriminated against. And so there's lots of other people that use coming out as kind of a generic term to talk about any type of secret or any type of thing that you might not have felt comfortable sharing. So it's kind of like a coming out process. So it's kind of a general way that we use that vernacular. But I do have some level of sensitivity that we're not by any means trying to compare or, take over that term when I think it has its own place within the LGBTQ plus community. So I guess we're going to use that term somewhat because it's kind of just normal. It's a cultural term, kind of like when we use addiction or depression when we're not really addicted or depressed. But just with the forethought of that we're being mindful about that.
Love it. Anything you want to add, Margi?
No. That
Okay.
was perfect. Yep.
Thanks, Natasha. Totally important to be sensitive to those things. And so, thank you for that disclaimer. Having said that, I have had a lot of LGBT clients over the years tell me coming out as a non-believer was actually harder for them than coming out as gay to their family and friends. That's obviously going to be different for every person, but it is ironic that's what some members of the LGBT community say. So let's be sensitive. Gwennon wants to share something that's working for her, and I love it. She says this week she has listened over and over again to Mindy Gledhill's new album, The Rabbit Hole. It's as if it were written just for me. It wasn't, but it was. That's awesome, Gwennon. And yeah, we just released that. I did an interview with Mindy and a couple of her bandmates just last weekend. And and they performed 6 or 7 songs in more of an acoustic, intimate format. Mm-hmm. And it's just a brilliant album, and Mindy's brilliant. And the interview with her talks about her faith journey from EFY singer to, no longer LDS or active LDS anyway. And she's just really thoughtful and sensitive and wise. And check it out. Also, Mindy's going on tour, and we just really want to support good art. So check out mindygledhill.com for tickets. She's going all through the Pacific Northwest and kind of places where there are lots of Mormons. She'll be in LA soon. Check out mindygledhill.com. Again, an unpaid endorsement, but we love Mindy.
And you're not alone, Glennon. We both woke up this morning having the same song in our head from the album. It is living and breathing in us even as we sleep. That's how powerful it is.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to now dive in. And Stacy reflects. I just listened to that Mindy interview this morning. It was great. Thanks, Stacy. That's on Mormon Stories podcast. You can check that out at mormonstories.org. It's a product of the Open Stories Foundation. Of course, Natasha does a great podcast too called Mormon Mental Health .org. Right? Mormon Mental Health podcast. Is that right?
It's mormonmentalhealth.org. That's correct. Yeah.
So check that out as well. Natasha does great work there.
Thank you.
Okay. So coming out, and we've got so much to cover today. And this is going to be a multi-hour episode. So hold on to your hats. And the main purpose is when you're going through a faith crisis, this is one of the most terrifying parts, because we've already talked about in past episodes how conversion is a family and a social event in so many ways. And that's why deconversion is too. But it's just so petrifying to come out, because there's just this fear that your marriage, if you're married, was likely built on Mormonism, and so there's this immediate worry that if you come out to your spouse, they might divorce you and take the kids and wreck your life. Will my parents disown me? Will they still love me if I come out to them? Will they cut me off? Will they disinherit me? Your siblings, your loved ones, your in-laws. These are, I would say, probably among the most terrifying fears when someone's navigating a faith crisis. Is that your experience, Natasha?
Yeah, it is scary. You don't really know how it's going to go. And as we'll cover today, I mean, sometimes it goes so much better than expected. And you're like, wow, I was worried for no reason. And then other times you really don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. And you're kind of hit by a tsunami of things that you didn't even know were coming. It's really hard to predict.
Yeah, it's super hard. And so what we want to do is give you as many tips and tricks, not just from our experiences and from our coaching, but from many of you. Many of you have written in and shared your stories. And so we're going to be sharing stories along the way, in addition to adding tips and tricks and stories and lessons learned from our live listeners. We're going to incorporate all that. So by the time you're done with this 2, 3, 4 hour episode, I don't know how many it'll go, you'll have what you need to be able to plan your coming out in the most effective way possible.
Yep.
We want to start with the disclaimer. And it was prompted by one of our listeners. Becca wrote, really vulnerable and candidly, she wrote, I am actually sad this is a question. So much pressure to leave, quote, the right way, quote, nothing is good enough for a true believing spouse. You share your thoughts as you learn them. It's wrong. You respect them and keep them to yourself. You are hiding things. You lose no matter what. And I think Becca is reflecting just this sense that it can feel like a lose, 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 no matter what you do. If you share, then you're offending people and challenging their testimony. If you don't share, you're accused of hiding things and covering up. And she's just saying it's a lose-lose. Margie, what do you think? What would you say to Becca, who just feels a little bit of cynicism and despair about the prospects of coming out?
Well, I validate that clearly, Becca. And I connect to the vulnerability and this sense that there is no way to sort of secure, a positive result. It's unknown. And I think part of that may stem from this idea that you are going against, that kind of conditional love paradigm by doing this. You are inserting a change to the system that will, I think, change it on some level. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
This change from just by, on a level, I think, disclosing a difference or a change, it changes that paradigm of control or conditional love, that now all of a sudden you've done something to our relationship, that was supposed to never change. It was supposed to always be. And I think that's part of why it hits so deeply and foundationally. It's hard stuff, and I think there are a lot of gifts amidst the process.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll just say that, and not to be by any means like a church basher, because that's not really usually the role I play on this either. But I will just say that, the recent resources that are coming out from on high, as far as, I think, is it Rasland? Is that how I say his name?
Rasband or Resland?
Yes, there's two of them now that start with an R, and I'm like, I always like trip.
Renland?
I'm so sorry. Anyway, he gave a talk about faith transitions, and then there was just one recently, I think, in Kansas City that was specifically for mixed faith relationships. And the advice given is just really subpar. It's really unfortunate. It's not relationally driven. It's more about, I think the leaders' anxieties about people losing their faith. And that's kind of where they keep the focus, instead of really being more about relational skills and how to really bridge divides. So I've been really disappointed to see people being left kind of without a lot of, resources or recourse on how to manage these things in a way that's going to edify marriages instead of bringing them apart or edify family or friendship relationships.
But the good news is we're here.
Well, right. And that's, I think unfortunately fortunately, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of resources. We're hoping to be a very positive, relationally driven resource. And every now and then LDS Living comes out with a good article, or the Ensign even has an article that I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. It's just not good enough. And there's not enough resources with as many people as are really facing these kinds of issues today.
Yeah.
I remember a lunch I had with Elder Jeffrey R. Holland where I expressed to him my concern about how, losing your faith should never wreck your family. And it would be just so amazing if the brethren could make a statement in general conference to that effect. Do not abandon or disrespect your spouse if they lose their faith. These are often very courageous, truth-loving people. And Elder Holland was very honest and candid with me. He said, maybe when the church is a little more mature, and I read that to mean certain apostles die off, honestly, we'll be able to say things like that in general conference. And that made me feel like he recognizes the problem and wants to be able to keep families together, but he just recognizes that the church isn't quite there yet. And I respected him for being honest. And at the time, I think Boyd K. Packer was still alive. So I understand that sometimes it just takes time, and that, they've got to have a lot of support in the quorum to be able to make those decisions. But yeah, so yeah, I think it's hard. And I think that's why we wanted to say at the outset, there's not one right way for everyone. And our goal isn't to tell you the right way. To address Becca's point. We're just here to give you lots of things to think about, lots of options, and to help you be as thoughtful and as careful and as deliberate as possible. You're also going to do things wrong, and you may do it wrong at sometimes and right at other times, wrong with some people, right with other people. We'll definitely encourage a strong sense of acceptance and self-compassion, because no one's going to do this perfectly, and you can do it perfectly and it can still go catastrophically wrong from the recipients. So
yep.
we want to just acknowledge Becca's concern. You're right, Becca, there's not one right way. In some sense, you're always going to have to experience some suffering. But we also want to say that you can be surprised, Becca. Sometimes really, really good things come out of this, and sometimes you can do it right, or you can do it better. You can do better versus
strategies,
worse.
Right? Strategies.
And we know for sure that there are people who say, I did it, and very positive things came from it. So good things can come from it.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're talking about it today. Now, Margi, before we actually dig in, one of your points I think we should kind of start with. Why don't you talk about, before you ever actually come out, what your advice to our listeners is?
Sure. So something that's come up quite a bit in my coaching practice is this idea of finding a mentor. And that can be someone that's a close friend of yours along the journey too, that's, in parallel or on the path as well, or a coach or a therapist. And I recommend this kind of foundationally before beginning, just because of the nature of transition. I feel like oftentimes our brain, our emotions are flooded for a while, trying to sort through information, trying to decide how to move forward, what it means to rebuild. That there's this tendency to have a lot going on that we actually have this need to offload, right? We want to kind of get it out there. And so I think having someone who is safe, that you can share your thoughts and feelings with, oftentimes allows you to offload that, to feel heard and understood. And that allows you to feel less inclined to talk to people in your life who may not need to, or hear it, to the wrong people. So finding a transition mentor, or even following us actually on this podcast, sharing openly and providing that space for your emotions can be tremendously helpful in allowing you to have a safe space for that, so that you don't do it with relationships that actually that would be less healthy to share.
And I just like the idea of being able to practice what you might say, or
too.
if you're going to write something, to run it by some people to let them give you feedback. Because sometimes we don't write or say our best prose when we're emotionally triggered.
That's right.
So they can give us an objective perspective. Natasha, I have a question. How would you recommend people find a mentor, especially if they feel alone and like they're the only one in their family?
Well, and I guess before I even answer that, I just want to second Margi's opinion here, because I think one thing that we're not talking necessarily about is that if things don't go well in your coming out process, that can be an extremely vulnerable time where you feel rejected, where you feel isolated. And if you don't have that kind of like mentor or fallback system to rely on, this is where risk for suicide, risk for depression, risk for isolation can really increase exponentially. And so I think having somebody in your corner before you even start, the more scary process of, confronting those people that you don't really know how they're going to respond, I think is very, very important. Otherwise, you leave yourself at high risk. As far as how to go about it, I think Margi had some good ideas, whether it's, groups like these. There's a lot of positive support groups online that deal with faith transitions. Maybe if you happen to know somebody in your own personal life who's been through a similar journey. And if you don't, that's what professionals there are there for as well. Coaches and therapists are people that, and especially finding somebody who is trained specifically to understand faith transition. Sometimes my experience working with therapists is that you can have LDS therapists who can be uncomfortable with the faith transition process and kind of, project their own fears or anxieties around it. You can also have non-LDS therapists who can be kind of minimalizing, like, what's the big deal about this? You're just changing your beliefs. Why is this such a big deal? who aren't culturally competent as to why this is a very big deal in Mormonism. So I think I don't know that it matters so much that a person is or isn't LDS, but that they're culturally competent to faith transition. So that's what we're experts in. That's, Mormon Mental Health Association is a place where we also have a referral list where I have personally vetted all of the therapists on there to make sure that these are kind of issues that they're competent and able to deal with effectively.
Love it. Fred writes, for me, I was not able to find a safe space with people I know in real life, but using anonymous spaces such as the ex-Mormon Reddit definitely helped me with that aspect of transitioning. And that's right. If you go to Reddit and you can create an anonymous account, you can go to ex-Mormon Reddit, and it's got over 100,000 people in it now, and you can share a letter you're thinking about writing or your situation, your approach, and you can get hundreds and hundreds of responses, very thoughtful responses from people who can give you feedback and tell you their experiences. You can also join we actually have a community associated with this podcast for those who contribute to the podcast. It's called the Mormon Faith Crisis Support Group. And we hope that you guys will, those of you who are able to support the podcast, can join that and support each other. And Margi and I and Natasha will do our best to monitor that support group as well. There's also the Mormon Stories Podcast Facebook community. It's got like 12 or 13,000 people in it. That's on Facebook. There are a lot of different groups online. You can also go to mormonspectrum.org, the Mormon Spectrum map, mormonspectrum.org/map, and there's this huge globe, and you can find push pins all throughout the world, even in Columbus, Ohio, or Austin, Texas. And you can join meetup groups or Facebook groups that are local and through Mormon Spectrum, find members of your community locally that you can use as real life mentors in addition to virtual mentors online. So lots of ways you can find mentors. Good?
Great.
All right. So that's Margi's first point, and I like it. All right. So before we jump into how to tell, I want to start with the question of if to tell. And there are several people who shared their experiences of not telling. Some of them, or partially telling, some of them turned out well, and some didn't turn out so well. So we'll read through a few. Is that all right?
Let's do it.
Okay. So Tori writes, I messed it up so bad. I had doubts, was a non-literal believer for years, and kept that under wraps. When I decided to leave, it was on the heels of a broken engagement and when I was having other mental health issues. I decided that it would be easier to let people think my experience had broken me rather than admit the true reason. Then I didn't tell people, and my mother came to leave me a birthday surprise in my apartment using my spare key, only to find my coffee maker and beer in my fridge. Oops. I hurt a lot of people without meaning to. However, and then she spins it in a positive way, my relationships have been mostly quite resilient. My best friend to this day is someone who was quite hurt when I left, a former mission companion. I had helped dress her mother's body for burial in the midst of my decision to leave the LDS Church, and she had a very hard time wrapping her head around it at first. More than anything, the process forced me to improve as a communicator. My communication style prior to leaving the church was truly dysfunctional, and it sounded like her communication style was non-communicating. I was frequently passive-aggressive and went along to get along. Since leaving, I've had to learn to set boundaries and advocate for myself, my needs, and my health. It isn't always easy, but I firmly believe I am better off for it.
Aren't we all, Tori?
So Tori shares what went wrong. Natasha, what's your reaction to Tori?
I think that this is a very normal way to go about it. I think I often talk to people about how we are pain avoiders. That's a very common theme. None of us want to really experience pain, and we actually have wiring and nerves that will force our hand away from a fire, right? Because it's painful. So so it's very easy actually to get into passive aggressive communication patterns or avoidant communication patterns. And I think there's some, some cultural things as well. I think as United States Mormons, anyway, we tend to be Anglo-Saxon, and, we're not Latin and we're not African, and we tend to have these kinds of issues with communication even outside of Mormonism. So I think this is very normal. And I'm so glad that she spoke about the resiliency of relationships. And that's why I think it's important to not necessarily focus on whether I did this good or bad. A lot of times we think we did something good or bad due to the response we get. And it's more about just seeing it more as an ongoing process.
I love it.
Yeah.
Margi, your awesome brother Tim is commenting. And Tim was actually a leader in this regard. Tim was the youngest of your siblings. Margi has 5 siblings. She's one of 6. And Tim's the youngest. I guess Tim and Chris were two of the first to leave in your family, right?
They were the pioneers.
Yeah, Tim. Shout out to Tim. We love you. You want to read Tim's comment?
Sure.
Tim writes,
I did not have a hard time with siblings, closest thing to actual mentors I had by Margi's point. I had a hard time with parents because I was young and they were the ones with true investment in my faith and the way things should be for me. It wasn't very traumatic for me, but I did go through a few months of punishment for refusing to be a churchgoer. Fortunately, I'm stubborn on certain things, so people got to see what I believed in changed. What and who I wanted to be did not.
and Tim's still that awesome kid, like adult, young man, old man, whatever you are, Tim, you're still awesome.
Old man.
And
Not old man.
yeah, thanks for sharing, Tim. Isn't it nice to have your brother joining us?
Yes, absolutely.
Love you, Tim. Thanks for your leadership. You've been you've handled your faith crisis really classy, and I've never sensed you belittling people or mistreating people. You've been a classy guy. So good job, Tim. Tim writes, I also like what Natasha said about having a mentor. I have not had that support. It has exponentially added to my depression and thoughts of suicide. Tim, we are so sorry to hear that. Tim, please find support, even if you have to find a coach, a therapist. We're here for you, community. Do not go through this alone. Tim, thanks for being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple others. Miles is an awesome friend. Miles, this point goes to, so Tori's point is the risks of hiding. If you hide, you might get discovered. And that's the point, that's the reason why I brought Tori's on, is you can avoid it, you can think you're hiding, and sometimes the risks of hiding and avoiding is you get found out, whether it's you're not wearing your garments or you didn't pay your tithing or you get caught with some beer or whatever it is you do, and people feel betrayed. And, in the one sense, it's none of their business and you have a right to privacy. On the other hand, if it's people that you have an understanding that you guys really love each other and care about each other and are honest and open with each other, they can feel betrayed. So you have to decide if not telling and or hiding is worth the potential risks to that relationship, at least in the short to medium term.
Yeah.
That's why I brought that up.
Yep.
And to some degree, it's kind of like you said, Natasha, a little pain now or a lot of pain later. Sometimes we avoid disclosure thinking that we're avoiding pain, but we actually choose a lot of pain later over a little pain or moderate pain before. There's also the lost time, and we'll discuss this later, the lost opportunity. Sometimes really unexpected good things come out. We just had one of our listeners, Lindy, who helped us organize our Orem workshop last weekend. Hey, Lindy, she wrote, we told all our families. And I think she means after our workshop, she wrote emails or letters to all her family. And her husband did as well. And then she wrote, my sister even told me she was gay. And so basically she's saying she had other family members who were also struggling or doubting come out as a result of her coming out. And that's just to speak to the unforeseen blessings or opportunities that coming out can afford. So while everyone needs to decide for themselves if non-disclosing or hiding is the best thing, we want to make sure you understand what the trade-offs are for that.
Yeah.
The next point we're talking about non-disclosing is, the importance of not outing other people and or the risks of being outed. So Miles writes, and this is Miles Germer. He's awesome. He's a friend of ours. Miles and Amy attended a mixed faith marriage retreat. Miles writes, my buddy Jeremy Young, and Jeremy's been on Mormon Stories podcast. He and his wife Molly now call themselves the Mormon wine snobs. But Miles writes, my buddy Jeremy thought I had already come out to my extended family and tagged me in a photo at a 2016 Mormon Faith Crisis workshop with John Dehlin in Phoenix, Arizona. That night, my mother left the most heartbreaking message on my phone. I can only hope she was on medication because she was crying and sobbing like a person who had lost a child. Luckily, I already had my quote letter end quote written, so I emailed it out to the family that same night. This is probably not the best example of how to come out to your family, but overall, my relationship with my parents and siblings is pretty great. So it turned out okay for Miles, but he's saying maybe he wished he could have come out in a different way. He writes, most of them didn't want to know any details about my concerns. We'll talk about that dynamic later. Those that did ask questions were not swayed by my concerns, which is fine. I do worry about them just like they worry about me, smiley face. One good part of coming out is that another family member confirmed to me that they were already out too, just under the radar.
Yeah, that's common. Huh?
So again, that's common, the unexpected benefits of coming out.
Yeah, and something kind of that is striking me about both of those two kind of sharings is this idea of being conscious and aware of what we're choosing, and this sense of empowerment and control, right? That can come in a time where many things can feel out of control. That there can be something empowering, and I don't know, about really going about it in a deliberate way, right? As opposed to having things happen to you, right? And then reacting in the moment. And that is a piece that I think is worth considering in the conversation.
Anything you want to add, Natasha?
Yeah, I'm just thinking through a lot of these dynamics. I mean, sometimes, information is not yours to control. If people know things, they may share things without your permission or without realizing that they didn't have permission. So that's a dynamic that can happen. And to your point, Margi, how much do you want to be forward versus not? And one thing that I know we're going to talk more about in the, kind of further down the line today is the level of intimacy in these relationships to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot matters, like even the betrayal piece that John, you were talking about, matters depending on the level of intimacy you're sharing. So if it's a spouse, that's a very different type of intimacy than maybe a friend or an acquaintance in your ward, right? As far as how much information you want to be sharing or how much information might be felt betrayed by if it's not disclosed. So it's tricky. There's so many different factors.
I think that if there is kind of a huge, one huge part of what we're sharing today, that would be it. This idea of really being aware of what level relationship we're talking about in these scenarios, and then adjusting the vulnerability and the disclosure accordingly.
And we're going to talk about that's in our outline.
Yeah,
So we're going to come to that.
Yeah.
But it's
Huge,
always
though.
good to talk about it. Okay. The next point is the risk of telling the world via social media, but not telling your direct or immediate family members. So this is Melanie. She writes, we wrote a letter so they could process it in their own time and way. And I wrote several blog posts with more in-depth reasoning. I feel it went well because we didn't get guilt-tripped and I didn't need to argue and people could choose to read my reasoning or not. The only thing I didn't really like about it is that both of our families are conflict avoidant, so now we never really talk about it. And you also have people who will share things on the internet, but not with their family members. And I think sometimes that can leave family members feeling betrayed. It's like, why are you telling the world, but not us? And so again, it's just this tricky concern about it going poorly. So you avoid the conflict, but then you come out and sometimes it's everything but healthy, direct communication.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think Mormonism too, we have certain markers that, and whether we like to think about our culture this way or not, we're somewhat kind of taught from a pretty early age that we kind of micromanage each other. Just kind of like the classic idea of seeing whether or not somebody's wearing garments has a lot of meaning as to whether or not they're in the tribe or out of the tribe. So when it comes to social media, I've had several clients and people talk to me about how even just forwarding a political piece, or a social justice piece on their page created this kind of angst in their maybe more orthodox or conservative family members or friends, that they saw that as a threat to, the overall faith journey of this person. So people may be quote unquote outing themselves in ways that they don't even realize they are. Like I just shared, a piece on how I support, I don't know, Obamacare, right? Or something like that. And all of a sudden people are, questioning whether or not I'm having a faith transition. So we do live in kind of a hyper vigilant micromanaging culture.
Yeah.
True.
And a lot of people, I noticed that after my excommunication, the number of likes on my Facebook wall declined significantly because once I was,
Othered.
Othered by the church, people were scared to friend me or like any post or comment that got made. even sometimes in some of these podcast live streams, people will like or comment on the podcast, and other family members will find out. And sometimes people do that out of courage and a desire to just be authentic, which is fine. But people should kind of measure their risk. And if they don't want people to find out, if they don't want to be outed, be careful what you like on Facebook. Be careful who you friend. Be careful where you comment.
Mm-hmm.
So we also had two very interesting approaches to not telling. I kind of just was operating under the assumption that you should basically always come out, right? You should always disclose. That in the end, that's always kind of the right answer. But we had two listeners who said they consciously chose not to tell family members. So I'm going to read each one. So Jeff Gardner, shout out to Jeff. He and Chelsea are dear friends. Jeff wrote, "I don't pretend to have answers here, and it obviously depends greatly on individual circumstances, but I've rarely seen a great announcement or letter or meeting or whatever go well. I think it emphasizes differences, which was the last thing I wanted to do." Parentheses, "The church's tendency to build walls is a major reason I think it's so unhealthy." Close parentheses. "So," says Jeff, "we didn't say anything. We decided we'd answer questions if they asked to the extent we felt comfortable, like we would with any other deeply private matter. We're going on 4 years, and I think it's gone well. I think my wife would appreciate it if it were more of a comfortable conversation topic, but I just don't think that's possible for them, and I certainly don't think a big letter would have enabled that at all. Also, I just don't think it's charitable to open up world-rocking conversations like this to those who haven't asked for it. Some people are ready to rethink their religion in their 70s, but these aren't those people. They're happy, they're content. Why shake that up?" What do you say to Jeff?
Yeah, I think, many paths. There are many ways, and I do like some things about this comment. I like that they're considering the source, who they're talking to, their stage of life, the intimacy that they share. And so it kind of goes back a little bit to me with regard to Natasha's comment and this idea of right level of relationship and intimacy. But I love the intentionality of it. And it sounds like they're feeling good in that scenario. And that matters.
Absolutely. Natasha, anything you want to add to Jeff?
No, I think these are points that, I would have thought of, you think about developmental stages of people's lives. You think about relationships, even spousal relationships. There's very different quality of spousal relationships. There's some that are highly toxic, chronically kind of disturbing marital relationships where you may not want to disclose right away until you figure out, relational issues at a different level. So it is, I think, looking at your family culture, where people are at in their age and their own development and their own differentiation skills is all part of the equation of whether or not you want to introduce this type of intimacy with them.
Fred writes, "Such a good point about only sharing world-shaking things with those who actually want it. Many times I preamble my responses with, I have no desire to hurt your faith, so let me know how much you want to know." And we'll talk about how much to disclose later.
Yeah.
But thanks, Fred. Matt writes, "I've been out of the church for about 20 years, and if I try to say anything about why I left the church, they immediately go into telling me their testimony and won't hear me or discuss." And that's addressing the point we're going to make soon, which is who to talk about and what to disclose, who to talk about it with, and how to disclose.
Yeah.
There's one more. Cheryl Adams Robinson writes, "I came out to a few close friends early on, but after that experience, I decided that I wouldn't make any grand announcement to my two sisters, who are the only remaining of my immediate family besides my children. They're both active, believing Mormons, and just think I've gone inactive. I know that it would be painful to them if I told them because that's how they believe, and they would be concerned about my salvation. It's not worth it, in my humble opinion. They each have their own journey and may or may not learn about the church if they choose to. If that happens and they need some help with their process, I'll be there because I'm their sister. Nobody can keep me from loving them, not even them, and especially not some controlling belief system in a religion. Another, more wisdom from Cheryl on not disclosing.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. And
Yeah.
I'll just share a personal experience. So, I'm kind of a slow burn faith transitioner, right? So I've been having, little things all along the way that have kind of helped me think differently about my faith. And along the way, of course, then certain family members of mine have had the opportunity, let's say, to listen to my complaints and my ideas. And one of these people is my mother-in-law, who is very active, very believing, very devout to her faith. And I remember a few years ago, when I was kind of probably going through one of my disgruntled moments of sharing something with her that I was upset about, she just kind of very quietly and, in a boundaried way said to me, Natasha, I need you to understand that this church and my involvement in it makes me happy. It's like, and she just kind of kept it at that. Like it's centered around her happiness. And it was kind of a profound moment for me. And I kind of looked at her and I kind of got it. That maybe I'm having a different experience. My disgruntlement and my issues and all of that are valid, but so is her experience. And I needed to back off because I was causing discomfort and kind of ongoing angst in our relationship as I was continually pressuring, these kinds of things. So just like, I don't appreciate being, given lectures or ensign talks or things like that. I'm sure people don't appreciate my constant, also bringing up issues on the way that I see things. So that was, I think, really good. And it helped me kind of create this type, what I think these people, what Jeff and Cheryl are talking about, is that with certain people, I'm just going to let it be. It's not a conversation that's worth having. It's not a conversation that enhances our relationship. Intimacy is not forthcoming. And in fact, it hurts our relationship.
Yeah. I love that too. There's another part to that I really love. And that is, as we talk about boundaries later, is, as we learn boundaries, we're not really great at it. But as we kind of learn to do that, it's also really important that we can identify being given a boundary and accepting a boundary graciously and with warmth in the same way that we kind of also give a boundary. And that's something that I see that you did there, that when you're given a boundary that you can say, I'm so glad you shared that with me. That means a lot to me. And I respect that.
And we've got a section on boundaries later too. So we'll definitely go into boundaries.
Soon.
That's crucial.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So a huge thanks to Jeff and Cheryl for sharing.